Ethan Cross never thought a joke could start an interstellar scandal. But then again, he'd never met anyone like Zira before. He sat in the academy's mess hall, swirling a mug of something that claimed to be coffee, but tasted more like liquid regret. Around him, the low hum of alien chatter filled the air, different voices, different species, all trying to act casual while pretending this human cadet wasn't the weirdest thing in the room. Across the table sat Zira, her silver eyes reflecting the overhead lights like twin moons. Her bioluminescent markings pulsed faintly with every breath, soft blues and pinks that danced beneath her pale skin. She wasn't just another alien. She was Velari, one of the most disciplined, logical, and beautiful beings humanity had ever met. And she was staring at him, again. "Zira, if you keep looking at me like that," Ethan said, smirking, "I might start thinking you're planning to sneak into my room tonight." A few cadets nearby snorted into their trays. The translator embedded in Zira's collar flickered, processing his words. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing in deep thought. "I do not sneak," she said slowly. "But if this is an invitation, I will consider the time and proper attire." Ethan almost choked on his drink. "Wait, no, that's not, it was a joke." She blinked, confused but intrigued. "You were smiling when you said it. In Velari culture, that means sincerity hidden beneath playfulness." "That's wow, okay, that's horrifyingly accurate. But no, it's humans tease, we use humor to break tension." "Ah," she made a note on her datapad, glowing faintly in her hand. "Understood. Human Ethan invites guests through teasing. Permission granted for night visitation." Ethan groaned and buried his face in his hands. Around them, a few human cadets were barely holding back laughter. "You're serious, aren't you?" he muttered. Zira looked up, expression soft but curious. "I am Velari, we are always serious." "Yeah," Ethan said, chuckling weakly, "that's what I'm afraid of." Later that evening he couldn't get her out of his head. Not just because of the joke, though that was definitely haunting him, but because she was different. Most Velari treated humans like emotional children. Zira, though, she listened. She asked questions. She even laughed, well, tried to. It came out like wind chimes colliding, but it was adorable. He'd met her during xenobiology drills 3 months ago. She walked straight up to him, introduced herself with perfect posture, and asked, "Do humans truly dream?" That was her first sentence to him. Since then, they'd eaten together, trained together, and occasionally argued about which species was more chaotic, humans or Velari younglings. He liked her more than he should. So when the lights dimmed across the dorm wing and the station drifted into its simulated night, Ethan lay awake, thinking. He pictured her probably still reading manuals somewhere, glowing faintly in the dark. The Velari didn't sleep like humans, they entered a meditative stasis. Peaceful, still, beautiful. "She's not actually going to come," he whispered to himself. Right, she wouldn't. The faint hum of the automatic door cut him off. Ethan froze. The door slid open silently, and there she was standing in the soft blue light of the hallway, looking completely out of place and completely ethereal. Zira, wearing something that looked like replicated pajamas but wrong. The pattern blinked like tiny stars, and the sleeves were on the outside of the collar. "Zira," Ethan half whispered, half yelped. "It's 2 in the morning, what are you doing here?" She stepped in lightly, the air around her faintly shimmering with bioluminescent dust. "You invited me. I have come." "I what? That was a joke. Humans don't actually, Zira, you can't just." She blinked. "You appeared lonely today after combat training. Velari share presence when one of us feels untethered." "I'm not untethered. I'm okay, maybe a little," Ethan admitted. "But humans don't usually deal with that by dropping by someone's room at night." Her silver eyes softened. "Then how do you share calm?" He hesitated. "Movies, talking, maybe snacks. Definitely not sneaking into dorms." She looked thoughtful. "Then let us do movie. I wish to learn your rituals." He sighed, rubbing his forehead. "You're unbelievable." "And yet," she said, a faint smile touching her lips, "you are smiling." Minutes later, Ethan sat cross-legged on his bunk while Zira examined the holoscreen like it was a sacred artifact. He queued up Interstellar 5, Revenge of the Moon Cows, a dumb comedy, but perfect for teaching a Velari what human humor looked like. As the film began, Zira's markings brightened in delight. Every ridiculous human joke made her laugh in that musical, bell-like way. Ethan found himself watching her more than the movie, the way she tilted her head, how her glow shifted with emotion, how alive she looked in the flickering light. Halfway through, she turned to him. "Humans make laughter from chaos," she said. "It is comforting." He smiled. "You could say that. It's how we survive things." Zira studied him carefully. Velari hide fear through silence. Humans hide fear through noise, but both are strong. Her voice softened, almost tender. "You are strange, Ethan Cross, strange and brave." He swallowed. "And you're way too serious for your own good." "Perhaps," she said, her glow pulsing faintly pink, "you will teach me how to be less so." Ethan's heart thumped in his chest, louder than the movie. For the first time, he wondered if his stupid joke had just started something neither of them could take back. And somewhere deep in the night, as the stars drifted outside the station's windows, a Velari girl stayed a little too long in a human's room, and a human boy realized he didn't want her to leave. The next morning came with chaos. Ethan woke to sunlight, or rather, the pale simulation of it that spilled through the station's tinted panels, and a pounding headache that only came from sleep deprivation and bad decisions. He groaned, rolling over in bed, and instantly remembered the events of last night. The movie, the laughter, the fact that Zira, a Velari cadet, had actually come to his room at 2 a.m. because of a joke. He sat up fast. "Oh no, oh no, no, no." The door slid open with a gentle hiss. "Good morning, human Ethan," came Zira's melodic voice. He nearly fell out of bed. "Zira, you're still here." She stood there, calm as starlight, holding a tray of food like it was the most natural thing in the world. Her silver eyes glowed faintly, and she wore the same star-patterned pajamas from last night, except this time she had managed to wear them backward. "I brought sustenance," she said proudly. "I observed humans consume this in the morning cycle." Ethan blinked. "Is that cereal?" She looked down at the tray. "It is a blend of grains and milk product, yes." He rubbed his face, half laughing, half mortified. "You went to the cafeteria like that?" She tilted her head, confused. "Yes. I told the attendant it was for my human's recovery ritual. They seemed pleased." "My human," he repeated, voice cracking. "Zira, you can't just, there are rules." She set the tray down, blinking her luminous eyes. "Rules can change, feelings cannot." That made him pause. "Feelings?" Zira looked away. "When you risked expulsion to explain my misunderstanding last night, it affected my pulse. My markings brightened without command." "You mean you blushed?" "Yes, it was uncomfortable but not unpleasant." Ethan was officially out of words. She smiled softly. "I have decided. Human companionship training must continue. You will guide me in the art of teasing and movie. In return, I will teach you Velari calm." He groaned. "You're making this sound like an interspecies research project." "It is," she said cheerfully. Later that day, training drills were brutal. The Academy's Zero-G course was meant to test agility, focus, and teamwork. Ethan and Zira were paired again, because fate clearly had a sense of humor. "Cadet Cross," barked Instructor Devin, "keep your velocity under control. This isn't a space circus." Ethan zipped around the obstacle course, spinning helplessly after misjudging a turn. Zira floated past effortlessly, graceful as a dancer. Her glow left trails in the air like starlight ribbons. "You are overcorrecting again," she called, laughter in her tone. "You're showing off," he replied, grinning. Perhaps it feels satisfying to surpass you. He smirked. Don't get too confident. Humans have a secret weapon. Oh, she asked, arching an eyebrow. And what is that? Improvisation. He twisted midair, kicked off a wall, and soared through the final ring a split second before her. Landing, he threw up his arms. Ha, human victory. Zira blinked. You cheated. It's called creativity, he said proudly. You Velari don't have a word for that, do you? Her glow dimmed slightly. We do, it is forbidden. That caught him off guard. Wait, what, why? Because improvisation leads to chaos, she said quietly. Velari history suffered from too much passion. Our ancestors destroyed a moon trying to create beauty. Ethan frowned. Zira, that's not chaos. That's just learning where the limits are. She studied him, her expression unreadable. Perhaps that is what makes humans dangerous. You do not fear the unknown. You run toward it. He grinned. Someone has to, otherwise we'd never meet anyone like you. Her glow flickered pink again and she turned away quickly. You are impossible, human Ethan. I get that a lot. That night after drills, they met again, this time in the observation deck overlooking the gas giant below. Swirls of orange and violet clouds danced far beneath them, lightning flashing like distant fireworks. Zira sat beside him on the floor, knees drawn to her chest, hair glowing faintly in the dim light. It is strange, she said softly. We orbit beauty so often but rarely stop to look at it. Ethan nodded. You sound like a poet. Her head tilted. What is a poet? Someone who feels too much and tries to make sense of it with words. Then perhaps, she said thoughtfully, I am one now. He smiled. Guess my training's working. She turned her gaze to him. Ethan, may I ask something personal? Sure. When you laugh, does it mean you are happy? Not always, he said. Sometimes it means I'm scared or nervous or trying to pretend I'm okay. She frowned, her glow dimming. Humans hide pain behind joy. That is tragic. Yeah, he admitted softly, but it helps us survive. She hesitated, then reached out, a trembling hand brushing his. You should not have to survive alone. Ethan's chest tightened. The station was silent except for the hum of the engines and the faint crackle of electricity from the planet below. Her touch was warm, almost electric. Zira, he said, voice quiet, if anyone sees us like this, we'll both get reassigned. She looked down but didn't pull away. Then we will sit in the dark. He laughed, low and gentle. You're learning teasing way too fast. She smiled. Perhaps I am improvising. And for a long moment, neither of them said anything. They just sat there, human and alien, watching storms rage beneath the stars, two worlds slowly learning how to understand each other. Somewhere deep inside the observation deck's reflection glass, the faint glow of Zira's hand lingered on his, light meeting warmth, curiosity meeting courage. And though Ethan didn't know it yet, that quiet night would mark the beginning of something far bigger than either of them. Something that would change the academy, and maybe even the stars themselves. The next few days passed like a dream for Ethan Cross. Training, meals, study, everything felt brighter, lighter, like gravity itself had eased its hold on him. Or maybe that was just Zira. Ever since that night on the observation deck, she had changed. Not much, but enough that Ethan noticed. She smiled more, small, secret smiles that flickered like candlelight. She laughed easier, and she kept finding excuses to sit beside him, to ask endless questions about human things. What does butterflies in the stomach mean? She asked one morning, sitting beside him in the mess hall. Ethan nearly choked on his toast. It's when you feel nervous or excited, like when you care about someone a lot. She blinked slowly, a biological reaction to affection. Sort of, it's more like emotion sneaking up on your body before your brain catches up. Zira nodded, serious as always. Then perhaps I am infected with butterflies. Ethan coughed, trying to hide his grin. That's good to know. You make my stomach flutter, she added matter-of-factly. He nearly dropped his fork. You can't just say stuff like that in public, Zira. Why not? It is true. Around them, a few cadets were whispering and giggling. Zira, of course, didn't notice. She just stared at him, tilting her head curiously, silver eyes gleaming. Ethan sighed, hiding his red face behind his mug. One of these days, you're going to get me court-martialed for excessive blushing. Later that day, they trained again in the simulator bay, only this time it wasn't drills. It was a mission test. The cadets were split into pairs to simulate a shuttle landing under fire. Ethan and Zira were assigned together, naturally. Remember, said Instructor Devin over the comms, teamwork is survival. One mistake and the system marks you both dead. Zira straightened in the pilot's chair, calm as a statue. Ethan sat beside her, manning navigation. The simulator doors sealed and the stars came alive on the screen before them. Coordinates set, Ethan said, voice tight. You ready, partner? Zira glanced at him. Always. The simulation began. Laser fire streaked across their view. The shuttle shuddered violently. Ethan gripped the controls, his heart racing. Left thrusters failing. Zira, reroute power. Done, she said calmly. Evasive pattern Delta 7. Delta 7, that's suicide. Trust me. She yanked the controls, spinning the ship into a wild roll that made Ethan's stomach twist. The simulated lasers missed by inches, flashing past the cockpit. He laughed breathlessly. You're insane. I am improvising, she said, flashing him a quick grin. The simulation ended with a soft chime. Mission complete. Efficiency rating 98%, said the computer. The control room erupted in applause. Zira turned to him, her markings glowing faintly. See, your chaos was useful. He leaned back, still catching his breath. I think I'm rubbing off on you. I hope so, she said softly. He froze. The way she said it, quiet, sincere, almost trembling, hit him harder than any explosion. Before he could reply, the simulation doors opened and Instructor Devin entered. Good work, Cadets Cross and Zira. You two are an unusual pair but effective. Maybe there's hope for human Velari teams after all. Zira stood tall, but her glow brightened slightly at the praise. Ethan noticed and smiled. That evening, after debriefing, Zira asked him to meet her again on the observation deck. He went, of course. He always would. The giant planet below was darker tonight, storms rolling like slow lightning serpents across its surface. Zira stood by the glass, her reflection shimmering faintly. You wanted to talk? Ethan asked. Yes, she turned to him. Her eyes were calm, but her markings pulsed with nervous light. You confuse me, Ethan Cross. He blinked. That's not usually how good conversations start. When I first met you, I thought humans were careless, loud, reckless, but you, she paused, searching for words. You make chaos look beautiful. Ethan swallowed hard. Zira, Wait, she stepped closer. I have studied your species, you bond quickly, you speak freely of affection, but for Velari we must choose when to share light. It means we trust. He met her gaze, feeling his pulse thudding in his ears. And you're choosing now. Her glow brightened, wrapping her in soft gold. Yes. She raised a trembling hand and touched his chest, just over his heart. The warmth that spread through him was unreal, like a hum of electricity mixed with emotion. Ethan barely whispered, What is this? A link, she said softly. A small exchange of calm, so that when you feel pain, I will feel it too. He stared at her, heart pounding. That's Zira, that's. Forbidden, she finished. Velari do not link with outsiders, but I do not care. He laughed shakily. You really picked the wrong human to break the rules with. She smiled, her hand still glowing against his chest. Then we are both wrong together. For a long moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the soft hum of the ship and their shared breathing. Then the intercom crackled. "Attention all cadets," came the commander's voice. "Unauthorized link detected in Section 6. Report immediately." Ethan froze. Zira's glow flickered in alarm. "They detected it," she whispered. He grabbed her hand. "Then run." They sprinted down the hall, hearts pounding in sync. Behind them, alarms began to wail softly, a warning that both of them had crossed a line that no one had dared cross before. And as they ducked into a dark maintenance corridor, breathing hard, Zira looked at him with those bright, trembling eyes. "You said humans leap first," she whispered. "Think later." He grinned out of breath. "Welcome to humanity, Zira." She smiled back, her glow warm against the shadows. "Then let us leap together." Outside, the storm on the planet below flashed brighter, lightning rippling across the endless sky, as if the universe itself was holding its breath for what came next. Ethan barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Zira's glowing hand pressed over his heart, the warmth, the hum, the connection. It wasn't just something he could forget. He felt it still deep in his chest like a pulse that wasn't his own, a soft thrum of energy and emotion, faint but constant. When he woke up, the whole station felt heavier. Whispers filled the halls. Cadets were talking about a strange energy surge that had lit up the sensors overnight, one strong enough to make the commanders nervous. And he knew exactly what caused it. By midday, the inevitable happened. "Cadets Ethan Cross and Zira Velari," the loudspeaker announced. "Report to Central Command, immediately." Zira met him halfway down the corridor, her glow dim and her expression tight. "They know," she said simply. Ethan nodded. "Then let's face it together." The command chamber was massive, its ceiling high and lined with holographic stars. In the center stood Commander Rithan, a broad-shouldered Velari with markings that glowed deep crimson, the color of authority. Humans called him Red Eyes behind his back. Ethan doubted he'd find that funny. Zira stood tall beside Ethan, but he could feel her trembling. "Cadet Zira Velari," the commander began, voice cold and echoing. "You performed a direct emotional link with a human. Explain yourself." She raised her chin. "It was my choice." The commander's eyes narrowed. "A choice that violates the interspecies conduct code. You risked contamination of Velari essence." Ethan couldn't stay quiet. "Contamination. She didn't do anything wrong. I was part of it. Punish me if you have to." The room fell silent. The commander turned to him slowly. "And you, human cadet Cross, encouraged this violation." Ethan hesitated, then stood straighter. "Yeah, I encouraged it, because we're supposed to learn from each other, right? That's what this whole program is about." A few officers murmured. Rithan's glow darkened. Human impulsiveness, always reckless. Ethan clenched his fists. "Maybe, but that recklessness saves lives. You train us to understand aliens, but the second one of us actually connects, you call it a crime." For a heartbeat, no one spoke. Even Zira looked shocked at his tone. Finally, Rithan turned away. "Enough. Cadet Zira, you are suspended from all field duties pending review. Cadet Cross, you will be confined to quarters until further notice." Zira's voice trembled. "Please, he did nothing wrong." "Silence," the commander ordered, and guards stepped forward. Zira's eyes met Ethan's one last time before they pulled her away. Her glow flickered desperately, a signal of sorrow. And as the door sealed between them, Ethan felt something sharp twist inside. Not just guilt, loss. Hours later, he sat in his dorm, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the ship vibrated faintly in the floor. He couldn't stop thinking about her, about how afraid she looked when they separated. The link in his chest felt faint, like a dying signal. Then he felt it, a flicker, a faint pulse of warmth, like someone whispering his name inside his thoughts. "Ethan." He sat up. "Zira." The light above his bed flickered, and for a moment he swore he saw her image, hazy, translucent. "They have confined me," her voice came, distant but clear. "They plan to send me back to Veeler for reconditioning." "Reconditioning," he repeated, horrified. "They're going to erase this. I broke the bond code. They will purge my emotional patterns." "No," he said immediately. "No way, I'm not letting that happen." "It is too late," she whispered. "Please do not endanger yourself further." "Zira, you started trusting me. Let me return the favor." Her image flickered. "You are human, what can you do?" He grinned, though his throat felt tight. "We specialize in impossible." And before she could stop him, he cut the connection. He didn't have a plan. He had instinct, and a stubborn refusal to lose the only person who ever made the universe feel alive. Ethan slipped out through the maintenance corridors, avoiding the main patrols. The station was massive, but he'd studied its layout during drills. The Velari detention wing wasn't far, just deep enough that no human was ever supposed to go there. He bypassed one security lock using a simple override chip he'd built months ago for fun. The second door, though, needed a Velari biosignature. He pressed his palm against it. "Come on, Zira," he muttered. And as if she heard him, the mark on his chest, the faint trace of her energy, flared just enough. The scanner beeped green. The door slid open. "Human improvisation for the win," he whispered with a shaky grin. Inside, he found her sitting in a containment chamber, surrounded by shimmering fields of light. She looked up as he entered, eyes wide in shock. "Ethan, what how?" He grinned. "You said you liked my chaos, right?" She stood quickly, rushing to the barrier. "You cannot be here if they find you. Then they'll know what humans do for their friends." Her eyes softened. "You would risk everything." He nodded. "You risked your whole world for me." The barrier shimmered with energy. He touched it, feeling the static burn his fingers. "Tell me how to shut this down." "You can't, it's coded to my life sign." "Then let me take it." She stared at him in horror. "That could kill you." He smiled gently. "We humans do stupid things for the people we care about, remember." Before she could stop him, he pressed both hands against the barrier. It flared bright, then faded, collapsing around them. Zira caught him as he stumbled, his breath coming in gasps. Her glow wrapped around him like a shield. "Ethan, why?" she whispered, tears like silver starlight in her eyes. "Because I couldn't let them take you away," he said weakly. "You make this place worth being in." Her grip tightened. "You fool," she murmured, voice trembling. "You beautiful, reckless fool." Alarms blared again. Red light filled the room, but neither of them moved. Zira's glow burned bright, enveloping them both in a sphere of soft, living light. And just before the guards burst through the door, she whispered, "Then we run, together." Ethan smiled through the haze. "Now you're sounding human." Hand in hand, they vanished in a blaze of gold, two fugitives in love, running through the stars toward whatever waited beyond the rules that tried to keep them apart. The sirens screamed through the academy halls like angry ghosts. Red lights flashed along the corridors, warning every cadet, every officer that something, or rather someone, was on the run. And that someone was Ethan Cross, sprinting full speed with a glowing alien girl at his side. "Left," Zira shouted, her voice melodic even through the chaos. Ethan veered into a narrow maintenance tunnel, barely avoiding a patrol drone that zoomed past the corner. Sparks flew as laser sensors sliced through the air behind them. "Are they seriously shooting at us?" Ethan yelled. "They are set to stun," Zira said, eyes glowing brighter as she moved. "Probably." "Probably, that's not comforting." She looked back at him with a mischievous smile. "Then run faster, human." Despite the danger, Ethan laughed. It was ridiculous, running through an alien academy with the most disciplined cadet of the Velari race, ridiculous and amazing. They burst into the cargo bay, lungs burning. The huge space was filled with stacked crates, small transport pods, and the cold shine of the docking gates. The sound of the alarms echoed off every wall. Ethan leaned against a crate, catching his breath. "We need to get out of here before the whole fleet locks down." Zira tapped on a control panel. "There's a training shuttle prepped for launch. Small, unarmed, but it can break orbit." He looked at her. "You're serious? You're going to steal a shuttle?" She gave him a smirk that made his heart stutter. "You taught me improvisation, remember?" "Yeah, but I didn't mean space piracy." She stepped close, her light reflecting softly on his face. "Then consider it a field test." Before he could argue, she grabbed his hand and pulled him toward the shuttle bay. The small craft sat in the middle of the hangar, sleek and silver. Zira moved fast, inputting codes on the terminal while Ethan sealed the hatch. "How do you even know how to fly this thing?" he asked. "I studied human flight systems," she replied, fingers flying across the screen. "They are charmingly simple." "Charming? That's not the word I'd use." The engines roared to life, and the shuttle lifted off the deck just as the main hangar doors opened, revealing Commander Rithan and half a squad of guards. "Zira Velari, stand down immediately," Rithan's amplified voice echoed across the chamber. Zira hesitated for only a second, then she whispered, "Hold on." The shuttle blasted forward, streaking out into open space before the docking bay shields could close. Stars exploded into view around them, vast, endless, breathtaking. The planet below gleamed like a marble wrapped in clouds, and the Academy station shrank behind them, its alarms fading into silence. Ethan sat in the co-pilot's seat, staring at the stars with wide eyes. "We actually did it." Zira let out a shaky laugh. "We did." Then she frowned. "They will come after us." He shrugged. "They can try." She turned to look at him, her glow softer now. "You should not be smiling. You just became a fugitive." "I'm smiling because you're free," he said simply, "and because I've always wanted to say I outran an alien commander." Her markings pulsed with a warm pink light, her version of a blush. "You are impossible." "I've been told that." For a while they just drifted, two runaways surrounded by the infinite quiet of space. It was peaceful, beautiful, almost unreal. Then Zira's voice grew softer. "Ethan, I must tell you something." He turned to her. "What is it?" "The link between us," she said quietly. "It's still active. The energy that freed me from the containment field, it tied us together even more. If they track my signal, they can find you too." Ethan leaned back, smiling faintly. "Guess we're stuck together then." "You do not understand," she said, her tone trembling. "If they locate us, they will destroy the shuttle. Then we stay one step ahead." "Ethan!" He looked at her seriously, meeting her silver eyes. "I meant what I said. I'd rather run with you than live safe without you." Her eyes softened, and for a moment all the fear in her expression melted away. "You risk everything so easily," she whispered. "Not easily," he said, "only when it's worth it." She smiled then, slow, tender, glowing. "Then let us make it worth it." Hours passed as they navigated through the asteroid belt that shimmered beyond the Academy's orbit. Zira handled the controls with elegant precision, weaving through floating rocks while Ethan monitored the scanners. "Any sign of pursuit?" she asked. "Not yet," he said. "Maybe we lost them." "Unlikely. Velari sensors are advanced." "Then we improvise," he said with a grin. "Your favorite human word." Zira laughed softly. "Perhaps chaos has its use after all." A moment later, the shuttle jolted violently. The console flared red. "Energy surge," Ethan shouted. "They've locked onto us." "Hold steady," Zira said, hands flying across the controls. "I can mask our signal if—" Another jolt rocked the ship. Sparks flew. Ethan stumbled forward, catching the edge of the pilot's chair. "Zira, we're not going to make it." Her eyes flashed with determination. "We will, trust me." She pulled a small crystal from her uniform, a Velari energy core. "This will overload the navigation system, hide us in the asteroid field." He shook his head. "That'll fry the engines." "Then we drift," she said, voice firm. "Better lost than captured." He met her gaze. "You're really getting good at this reckless thing." Her lips curved into a soft smile. "I had a good teacher." She slammed the crystal into the console. The ship shuddered violently. Light flared across the glass. For a few terrifying seconds, the stars blurred into streaks of gold. Then silence. The alarm stopped. The ship drifted in darkness, hidden between two massive asteroids. Ethan exhaled, his heart pounding. "We're alive." Zira nodded, her glow faint but steady. "For now." He turned to her. "You okay?" She smiled wearily, exhausted but free. He reached out and gently took her hand. "Then it's worth it." Her fingers curled around his, warm and trembling. "Humans are strange," she whispered. "You burn so bright even when everything falls apart." Ethan smiled. "That's our specialty." Outside, the asteroids drifted slowly across the silent stars. Inside the small shuttle, two fugitives, one human, one alien, sat side by side, their hands entwined, their hearts linked by light and defiance. And somewhere, far behind them, the Academy's scanners searched and failed, unable to find the spark that had already vanished into the vastness of space. The stars outside their shuttle had never looked so close or so silent. For the first time since their escape, the universe felt still. The hum of the ship had softened to a low heartbeat, and the glowing light from the control panels painted faint colors on their faces. Zira sat in the pilot's seat, her posture calm but her eyes distant. The soft bioluminescent lines that ran along her neck and arms were dim now, flickering gently like candlelight. Ethan watched her from the co-pilot's chair. She looked peaceful, but he knew that look she was worried. "You've been staring at that display for 20 minutes, he said softly. "You planning to glare the sensors into working again?" Her lips twitched into a small smile. "I was hoping they would feel shame and repair themselves." He laughed quietly. "You're learning sarcasm, I'm so proud." Her glow brightened slightly, a blush in Velari terms. "It is strange, this humor. You hide fear behind it." "Sometimes," Ethan admitted. "It helps, makes the hard stuff a little easier." She nodded slowly, then turned her gaze back to the stars. "The hard stuff is coming." He frowned. "What do you mean?" She pointed at the display, a faint signal flashing red. "A magnetic storm. It will cross our path soon. We will need to fly through it or wait and risk being found." Ethan leaned forward, studying the readings. "How bad is it?" "Severe. Radiation, static discharge, gravitational flux." "Sounds like a fun ride." Her eyes widened slightly. "Fun? It could kill us." "Yeah," he said, flashing her a grin. "That's why it's fun." Zira sighed, half amused, half exasperated. "Humans are truly broken creatures." "Maybe," he said, "but we make great travel companions." They decided to go through. When the storm hit, it was like flying through lightning. The stars vanished in a whirl of golden plasma and roaring static. The ship shook violently, alarms flashing red, the air humming with electricity. Ethan gripped the controls. "Zira, I thought you said the shields would hold." "They are," she shouted over the noise. "Barely." Sparks flew from a panel. The lights flickered. Zira reached over, steadying the system, her markings flaring bright against the darkness. The storm's glow reflected off her skin, making her look like a living flame. Ethan couldn't take his eyes off her, even as chaos raged around them. "Focus, Ethan," she yelled, her voice breaking through his trance. "Right, focusing." He adjusted the thrusters, guiding the shuttle through the worst of it. The turbulence threw them against their seats. Outside, Streaks of energy coiled like glowing serpents, wrapping the ship in a furious dance. Then a flash. A surge of magnetic force hit them head-on, knocking the power offline. The engine screamed and went dark. The ship spun helplessly. "Zira," Ethan shouted. "I am trying," she said, gripping the console. "The systems are locked." They tumbled through the storm, weightless and blind. The sound of static filled the cabin like thunder. Ethan reached across the space between them and caught her hand. "Hey," he said over the noise, his voice steady. "We'll make it." She turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. "You cannot promise that." "I can," he said, squeezing her hand tighter, "because humans are too stubborn to die easy." For a moment she looked at him, really looked. Then she smiled, soft and sad. "Then let us be stubborn together." They crashed. The ship hit something, solid ground, maybe rock, and skidded violently. Metal screeched. Dust filled the air. When it stopped, silence fell like a blanket. Ethan groaned, blinking through the haze. "Zira." A faint glow flickered to his left. She was slumped against the console, breathing shallowly, her markings dim. He crawled toward her, wincing at the pain in his leg. "Zira, stay with me. Hey, look at me." Her eyes fluttered open. "We are alive." "Barely, but yeah," he smiled weakly. "Told you, too stubborn." She gave a small, tired laugh. "You were right." He helped her sit up. The view outside the cracked viewport showed a barren, metallic landscape. A moon, maybe, or a dead planet, its horizon glowing faintly under the storm's fading light. "Where are we?" he asked. "Unknown," she murmured. "But breathable atmosphere, that is lucky." He chuckled. "Luck's my other specialty." Hours passed as they repaired what they could. The ship was damaged but stable. They found a small outcropping nearby to set up a temporary shelter. The sky above was streaked with ribbons of gold and violet, remnants of the storm still swirling far above. Ethan sat beside her on the rocky ground, watching the lights fade. "Not bad for a crash landing," he said. "Could have been worse." Zira gave a faint smile. "Could have been death." He shrugged. "That too." They sat in silence for a while, the wind whispering softly around them. Then Zira spoke quietly. "When the storm hit, I felt something, through the link." He turned to her. "What did you feel?" "You," she said simply. "Your fear, your hope, it echoed in me. It was beautiful." Ethan's throat tightened. "Zira." "I never understood humans before," she continued. "You are fragile, yet you fight the universe as if you could win. You fall, and you still reach for the stars." He smiled softly. "And you think that's foolish?" "No," she said, looking at him. "I think it is love." He froze, the word hanging in the air like a spark between them. Zira leaned closer, her glow faint but warm. "When you touched my hand in the storm, I was not afraid. I only wanted to be where you were." Ethan's heart pounded. "Zira." She smiled, a small, trembling smile. "Now I understand your butterflies." He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "You really do." And under that alien sky, as the storm drifted away and the stars returned one by one, Ethan leaned in. Zira met him halfway. Their foreheads touched, human warmth against alien light, and the bond between them pulsed brighter than it ever had before. Two fugitives, two hearts, one quiet moment of peace before the next storm. And far above, in the silent black, a Velari fleet began to move, searching for the light that dared to love beyond its laws. The sun of the strange moon rose slowly, if it could be called a sun at all. It was faint and pale, filtered through drifting golden clouds that shimmered like mist. The light made everything glow softly, including Zira. Her silver eyes caught the sunrise and turned it into living starlight. Ethan sat beside her on a rock near the broken shuttle, sipping from a cracked ration flask. His uniform was torn, his hair was a mess, and there was a faint scorch mark across one sleeve, but he smiled anyway. "So," he said, "breakfast under two suns. Kind of romantic, right?" Zira tilted her head, curious. Romantic, you use that word often. It means affection mixed with risk. He chuckled. That's a good definition. Usually means caring about someone so much you do something stupid. Then humans are a very romantic species, she said with a straight face. He laughed, a real one this time. You're getting too good at this humor thing. Zira smiled faintly. I had a good teacher. They spent the morning exploring their crash site. The air was thin but breathable. Strange crystalline formations jutted from the ground like glass trees, humming softly in the wind. The place was hauntingly beautiful, empty yet alive in small, glowing ways. Zira touched one of the crystals and it sang, a single clear note that echoed across the valley. This world is forgotten, she said softly. Once, Velari explorers mapped it. They said no life remained. Yet it still sings. Maybe it's waiting, Ethan said, for someone to listen again. She turned to him, her glow brightening. You make everything sound alive. Maybe because I've learned life doesn't always look how we expect. She studied him for a moment, then smiled. I like how you see the universe. And I like how you light it up. Their gazes held longer than either meant to. The bond between them pulsed faintly, a warmth that wasn't just energy, it was emotion, shared and real. By midday, they'd repaired enough of the shuttle's systems to get short-range scans working again. That's when they saw it, the faint signal of an approaching ship. Zira's expression darkened. Velari patrol. Ethan looked at the readings. They found us. They will not fire, not yet. They will demand surrender. And if we do, they will take us by force. Ethan sighed. Figures, we can't fight a warship with a half-dead shuttle. Zira looked down. They will separate us. I will be taken for judgment. You will be sent home. He frowned. That's not an ending I'm signing up for. Ethan. He took her hand. No, you said once that Velari link only happens with trust. You trusted me when no one else would. I'm not letting them erase that. Her eyes shimmered with emotion. Then what do we do? He grinned slightly. We do what humans do best. Be reckless. Exactly. They waited until the patrol ship entered the atmosphere. The ground trembled under its descent. The sky turned silver with its engines. Ethan moved quickly, helping Zira attach a pulse beacon to the shuttle's damaged core. What does this do? She asked. It's a flare, he said. A big, loud distraction. We're going to make them think we blew ourselves up. Zira blinked. That is a very human idea. Compliment accepted. The shuttle shook as the patrol's scanners swept over them. Zira placed her palm on the crystal wall beside her, sending a surge of her energy through it. The ground hummed in response. I can amplify the flare, she said. If we combine your pulse with my energy field, it will overload their sensors. Ethan looked at her. You'll burn out your glow doing that. It will recover, eventually. He hesitated. Zira, you don't have to. She smiled softly. Ethan Cross, you are the reason I laugh. You are the reason I see beauty in chaos. Let me do this. He couldn't argue with that. When the flare detonated, it was like a sunrise exploding. The crystals all around the valley lit up in 1,000 shades of gold and blue, each one resonating with Zira's energy. The sky itself seemed to sing. The patrol ship veered off course, blinded by the burst. Now, Ethan shouted. He pulled her close and dragged her toward a ridge on the far side of the crater. They stumbled over rock and crystal, laughing breathlessly despite the danger. Behind them, the shuttle finally went up in a brilliant flash. They'll think we're gone, Ethan said, looking back at the rising plume of light. Zira's glow had faded to a soft shimmer, almost transparent. She leaned against him, weak but smiling. It worked. He wrapped an arm around her. Of course it did. We're getting good at impossible. You are certain this is not insanity? A could be both. She laughed softly, then looked up at the shimmering sky. Ethan, what happens now? He looked around, the endless crystal plains, the strange beauty of the alien world, the way her faint glow reflected off the glass ground. We make a new plan, together. They found shelter in a hollow cave of crystal, glowing faintly from the energy still humming in the air. As the sun began to fade again, Zira sat close to Ethan, resting her head lightly against his shoulder. "Do you regret it?" she asked quietly, "running from everything?" He shook his head, "Not for a second. You lost your home, your future." He smiled faintly. "Home, not always a place, sometimes it's a person." She looked up at him, eyes wide. "A person." "Yeah," he said softly, "or an alien who glows when she laughs." Her markings brightened in surprise and warmth. "Ethan Cross, you are the most unpredictable being in the galaxy." "And you love it," he said. She smiled. "Yes, I think I do." He leaned his forehead against hers, feeling the quiet pulse of their bond. The world outside was silent again, the storm long gone. Only the faint hum of their connection filled the air, steady, alive, unbroken. "Zira," he whispered, "if they come back, if they ever find us, what then?" She closed her eyes. "Then we show them what love looks like when it leaps instead of hides." Ethan smiled, his hand finding hers. "Sounds like a plan." They sat there, surrounded by singing crystals and fading light, two fugitives who had defied law, logic, and the stars themselves. And as night fell over the forgotten world, the sky shimmered, not with storms or fire, but with two lights pulsing together, human warmth and Velari glow, blending into one heartbeat that the universe could not silence. Weeks passed. The strange moon became their quiet world, a home made of crystal caves and soft light. They built small fires, fixed broken tech, and shared stories under the glittering sky. Every night, Ethan watched Zira's glow return, brighter than before, stronger, steadier. Sometimes they spoke about the past, the academy, the chase, the choices that brought them here. Other times they didn't speak at all. They just sat together, hands intertwined, hearts steady in the silence of a world that no one else remembered. One evening, as the twin suns dipped low, a faint sound echoed in the sky, engines. Ethan looked up to see distant shapes descending through the clouds. Zira's eyes met his. "They found us." He took her hand. "Then we show them." When the Velari ships landed, the patrol officers stepped out cautiously, weapons lowered. But they didn't find fugitives waiting to surrender, they found light. Zira stood tall, her glow calm and radiant, her voice carrying across the valley. "You came to judge," she said, "but there is no crime in connection." Ethan stood beside her, proud and unafraid. "If loving across stars is rebellion, then let it be a new beginning." The silence that followed felt endless. Then, one by one, the Velari lowered their weapons. Even Commander Rathan paused, eyes softening as Zira's light touched him. No words were needed. Something in the air had changed, something ancient and human and Velari at once. That night the patrol left quietly. And when the stars rose again, two figures stood hand in hand beneath them, one glowing with light, one with warmth, both free. The universe, vast and endless, had learned a new kind of peace.